Welcome back to Stab the Dragon Productions for episode number 243 for the Canadian Whiskey Tournament Level 2, Feud number 4, as we conduct a one-on-one match within the Canadian Club family, 9-year versus 12-year. Coming to you from Fort Worth, Texas on Sunday, February 8th, 2026, where it is currently 81 degrees. It's what we call winter. Last year, I conducted a small Canadian whiskey tournament with 5 popular blends, including Crown Royal Fine Deluxe, Canadian Mist, Seagram's VO, Black Velvet, and Canadian Club 1858. The Canadian Club won that tournament. Well, this year I started with the next level up with Seagram's VO family and pitted the VO against VO Gold and VO Black. The Gold won that family feud. It was a pretty tight race. Now I'm studying Canadian Club, and I have had the 1858 face off against the 100% rye, and the rye won. Then we looked at the 9-year-old, and we had the 9-year-old compete against the rye, and the 9-year-old won, but again, it was very close. Now we're looking at the 12-year-old, and we'll see who wins in this face-off between the 9 and the 12. What are the rules? I've reviewed both whiskeys already, but we'll pit the information about each whiskey against the other to see which way the match leans. But in the end, it is the nose, taste, mouthfeel, burn, and finish that decides the winner. The competition is done with blacked out glasses. Here, the 9-year-old is in glass number 1. The 12-year-old is in glass number 2. And I'm going to mix these up so that I do not know which is which. Now, in case of a tie, we use price, value, and availability to determine the winner. And that has happened a couple of times at least. All right, so first for the history. Now, I've given the history of Canadian Club brand, and it's full of a lot of rich, interesting things. I've given that before with each of these reviews, so really I'm going to not do that and just focus on these two whiskeys. Unfortunately, though, the Canadian Club website does not go into the history of these two labels. They do list several awards that the 12-year-old has won, and it looks like the 9-year-old has nothing posted under that. But even in this excellent book by Davin de Kergobino, or Kergamo, I don't know how to say his name, about Canadian whiskeys, it really doesn't. It goes into detail about all the business dealings and who bought which distillery from where, and who owns the brands and all that stuff. It goes into those kind of details. As far as discussing the individual bottles, it doesn't. And so when you're looking at these two, when did they start? With the 12-year-old, there's evidence that it started in the 70s, maybe. One source said 1984, but I saw another source that said 77, and there was actually a picture of a bottle from 77, and that bottle was significantly lighter in color than this one. So there's been some changes. The 9-year-old here, best data I could get says maybe about 10 or 12 years ago, and that it replaced a 10-year-old. So fuzzy details, okay? So for history, though, I'm going to give the 12-year-old the win because there's just a little bit more information about that. Bottle, label, and marketing, though, these bottles are identical, and they both have screw-on caps. Only the labels are a little bit different, and here the 9-year-old's got a little bit more color going on for it. It's got some blues in there along with the grays. They're both sporting the royal seal of approval there, the royal warrant. But so I'm going to give a slight edge to the 9-year-old for that, since it's got a little bit more color. So 9-year-old for the win on bottle, label, and marketing. But as far as marketing goes, neither of these has got much on the internet out there. I wasn't able to find anything. The rye's got a lot, but neither of these had anything out there as far as advertisements go that I could find. Appearance of the whiskeys. Well, as you can see, side by side, there's not a whole heck of a lot of difference, but I'm going to say the 12-year-old is a half a shade darker. So the 12-year-old wins. This means it's got more food coloring than the other one, probably. But so appearance, 12-year-old for the win. I prefer darker whiskeys. So in composition on the Canadian Club website, they do state that the 9-year-old has got a heavier rye influence than their 1858 version. But that's the only hint about a mash bill for either whiskey that I was able to find. They're both 80 proof. However, the 12-year-old is 12 years old. So I guess for composition, that one wins, 12-year-old. Flexibility. Both are great neat. Really like the taste profile on both of these. I'm not sure about on ice. I don't do whiskeys on ice unless it's a high proof. These are both 80 proof, so I don't know about that. But excellent cocktails. I've tried both of these in cocktails, and they do make wonderful cocktails. But I think the 12-year-old has a slight advantage there. So 12-year-old for the win on flexibility and usefulness. Price, value, and finish. Now here's where it gets a little interesting. The 9-year-old comes in at $18.49 for a 750 at the one store I could find it in. And it simply was not available in the other stores in a 750 or 1.75 or anything. So this is hard to come by, apparently. $18.49. The 12-year-old is about 50 more, $20. Okay? And it is in all the stores. So they're both very good value, but this one is just simply available more. So this one, the 12-year-old wins on availability. Now, I think it's time to taste these and see which is the winner. So let's start with the nose. Again, I have mixed these glasses up. Number 1 is the 9-year-old. Number 2 on the bottom is 12-year-old. I will start on the left and go to the right. Very faint nose. Neither of these has a strong nose. What I'm getting is a little bit of corn sweetness, barrel, a little bit of spice, leather, wood, maybe hints of vanilla, hints of maple. So it's a pleasant nose, just pretty faint. All right, the one on the right. As usual, with me, the first whiskey that I smell tends to be the strong one. After that, my nose quits. So this one doesn't seem to have as much on the nose as the one on the left. So I'll say the one on the left wins the nose, but that could just be my nose. All right, so it's time to go in for the taste. I'll start with the one on the right since it had the lesser nose. And that's got a good taste. Actually getting spices, cinnamon, wood, some corn sweetness, maple, a little bit of vanilla, leather. tobacco. That is just wonderful. Okay, I'm a fan of Canadian Club. I'll admit it. All right, the one on the left that had the better nose. This is going to be a hard competition. I'll just flat out tell you, I don't know that I can tell the difference between these. This one seemed to maybe have a little bit better mouthfeel. More mellow. Not quite as spicy, but still oak, leather, tobacco, little hints of vanilla maybe. These are both very good. The one on the right maybe was just a little bit more spicy. This one's maybe a little bit deeper. Wow, this is going to be hard. I'm going to say the one on the right has a slight taste advantage because I'm getting some brighter spices going on there. But when it comes to mouthfeel, burn, and finish, I think the one on the left has a better mouthfeel. Maybe the better finish. Neither of these has a long finish, though. This is going to be so close. I don't know that I could tell these apart. But I think the one on the right's got a little spice advantage. It may have a little bit more of a burn advantage. But I think the mouthfeel goes to the left. Okay. Good luck determining a winner here. The one on the left had the better nose, but all the time, when I do two whiskeys, the first whiskey wins the nose. I'm not sure why. Taste, there was enough difference in the taste, and that the one on the right was a little bit more spicy. The one on the left was a little bit deeper, richer. And that came across with the mouthfeel as well. Wow. I legitimately don't know that I can determine a winner here. The winner is the one I prefer to drink the most. But in this case, I'm just not sure. I'm going to go, well, man, I'm going to have to declare a tie. That's just too close to call. Declare a tie, but the tiebreaker would go to the 12-year-old because of price, value, and availability. Which is which? I'm leaning towards saying the one on the left is glass number 2 and the 12-year-old because of the mouthfeel. And I'm correct. One on the right is glass number 1 and the 9-year-old. So, you know, this is just, I hate this. There was enough difference between the two to where I could tell there was a difference. And one was like, well, it's Tuesday. The other one was like, it's Monday. You know, I like both equally well. The 9-year-old had a little bit more spice going on to it for some reason. But the 12-year-old, the mouthfeel was definitely better. So, and the tiebreaker is going to go to the 12-year-old because of price, value, and availability. So I did correctly guess which was which. And I kind of felt that. As soon as I felt the mouthfeel of the one on the left, I thought, that's the 12-year-old. But I didn't let that sway me. I was trying to really be fair. And it's like, both of these offer a little something different. So on the one hand, I'm going to say it's a tie because they each offer something a little bit different. But on the other hand, the 12-year-old, it had a better nose and it had the better mouthfeel. But the one on the right had the better burn and taste because of the spiciness. So, okay. But for availability purposes and price, clearly the 12-year-old is more available. It's the winner. Winner gets a cocktail, so stand by. I'm going to make an old-fashioned with the 12-year-old. And I'm back. And the winner gets a cocktail. So, in this glass, I've got an old-fashioned, one giant square ice cube. Cube, square, there you go. But the bitters that I used, I put a little over 1.5 ounces of the Canadian Club 12. I used Feud Brothers Orange Bitters and Feud Brothers Aztec Chocolate Bitters. And then it's got one Luxardo Cherry and a couple of little orange peels. That is amazing. I can taste the chocolate off of those bitters. It blends perfectly with the tobacco oak leather that I get from the Canadian Club. Now, for sweetener, I use maple syrup. And, well, particularly with Canadian whiskeys, because I get kind of a maple flavor there anyway. I don't know if it's just my imagination from the flag or what, but I always tend to get a little bit of maple with Canadian whiskeys. So I use maple syrup. Why not? My wife tried this and she thinks it's good. So definitely the old-fashioned with the winner, Canadian Club 12-year-old. Right there. All right, what is next? We have this is basically the winner in the Canadian Club family feud. And so coming up next, I'm going to return to Black Velvet, because I've got a Black Velvet Reserve that I just haven't really studied. So we'll study Black Velvet Reserve and then put Black Velvet Reserve against the regular Black Velvet and see what we come up with. All right, for now, this is Stab the Dragon Productions out here.